The sky above Nova Prime burned with the hues of an artificial sunset, its vast domes reflecting the crimson streaks of the twin suns. In the heart of the capital, beneath the towering shadow of the Dominion spire, humanity's last hope was gathering in secrecy. Joran Velan tightened his grip around the rusted metal railing, his keen hazel eyes scanning the cityscape below. The air buzzed with the low hum of hovercrafts patrolling the streets, each one a stark reminder of the iron grip the Dominion held over humanity. He inhaled deeply, letting the weight of the moment settle upon him. Tonight will be the beginning of something greater, something dangerous, yet necessary. Behind him, the abandoned industrial complex pulsed with a quiet energy as rebels moved like shadows. They were the forgotten ones, exiled soldiers, ex-scientists, scavengers, and dreamers. Each had a reason to fight. Each had suffered under the Dominion's merciless rule. "This is madness," whispered Merrick, his second-in-command, as he approached Joran. "We don't have the numbers. We don't have the weapons. The Dominion is too powerful." Joran turned, his expression unreadable. "And yet, here you stand." Merrick exhaled, shaking his head. "Because if we don't do something now, we never will." A faint smile played on Joran's lips. "Exactly." A metallic chime echoed through the building, signaling the arrival of their most valuable asset. The rusted doors creaked open, revealing a figure draped in a dark cloak. The room tensed as the newcomer stepped forward, removing their hood to reveal piercing blue eyes and a face marked by years of struggle. Kayla Runn, the former Dominion tactician, had arrived. "You're late," Joran said, arms crossed. Kayla smirked. "I had to make sure I wasn't being followed. Trust me, you don't want the Dominion sentinels knocking at your door." Merrick huffed. "They'll find us sooner or later." Joran nodded. "Then let's make sure we strike first." Kayla's gaze hardened. "I didn't come here to watch a reckless suicide mission. If we're doing this, we do it right. I have intel that can cripple them, but it won't be easy." The room fell silent. Every rebel, every soul that had sworn to stand against oppression, now had their eyes locked onto her. Joran stepped forward. "Then tell us how we take our world back." Kayla pulled out a small holographic device from her belt, tapping a sequence of commands. A glowing blueprint flickered to life, casting eerie blue light over the assembled fighters. "This," she said, "is the Dominion's nerve center, the Spire. If we can infiltrate it, we can take control of their communication relays. We can expose their secrets to every colony, every world still under their rule." Marek's brows furrowed. "That place is a fortress. Security is tighter than ever." Kayla's smirk returned. "Not if we have the right distraction." Joran exchanged a glance with her, realization dawning in his eyes. "You mean an uprising?" Kayla nodded. "We hit multiple sectors at once. Force them to spread their forces thin. By the time they realize our true objective, it'll be too late." The room was silent for a beat, then murmurs of agreement filled the air. Joran placed a hand on the table, looking at each of them in turn. "This is it. We spent years hiding, running, waiting for a miracle. But we aren't waiting anymore." He exhaled sharply. "This is the moment we start fighting back." A chorus of determined voices rose in agreement. The fire of rebellion had been lit, and nothing could extinguish it now. But deep within the city, behind cold metal walls, the Dominion was already watching and waiting. The underground base was alive with the restless energy of the rebels. Weapons were being checked, plans revised, and whispers of anticipation filled the air. Joran stood at the center of it all, gazing at the glowing map of Nova Prime. Red markers signified Dominion control points. Blue ones, their planned attack zones. Kayla stepped beside him. "We don't have much time. The Dominion is already on high alert." Joran's jaw tightened. "Then we move tonight." Merrick approached, arms crossed. "The strike teams are ready. Sector 7's explosives are in place. Once we detonate, the Dominion will be scrambling to respond." Kayla nodded. "That will give us a small window to infiltrate the Spire." Joran turned to face the assembled rebels. "We fight not just for ourselves, but for every soul suffering under their rule. Tonight, we show them that humanity does not kneel, A roar of approval echoed through the base. The plan was simple: create chaos, draw Dominion forces away, and breach the spire. But simple didn't mean easy. The first explosion rocked the city. The rebels had struck. The battle had begun. The night was ablaze with chaos. Nova Prime trembled under the weight of the rebellion's first strike. Plumes of fire and smoke twisted into the sky, an inferno of defiance against the Dominion's iron rule. Alarm sirens wailed through the streets, piercing the ears of rebels and civilians alike. The city's once pristine roads were now a battlefield, littered with debris, fallen structures, and bodies, both human and machine. Joran Velan darted through the alleyways, his pulse hammering against his ribcage. His fingers tightened around his pulse rifle as he pressed himself against the cold, metallic wall of a shattered storefront. Beside him, Merrick crouched low, scanning the streets with veteran's sharp gaze. "They're mobilizing faster than we expected," Merrick muttered. "Sentinels are locking down the main districts." Joran cursed under his breath. The Dominion wasn't wasting time. The rebels had struck hard, but they had underestimated the speed of the enemy's response. They needed to move before they were pinned down. A familiar voice crackled through his earpiece. "Joran, do you copy?" "Kayla?" he responded, steadying his breath. "What's your status?" "I've made it inside the spire," she replied. "Security is heavy, but I've found an opening. I'm tapping into their communications now. If I can override their emergency protocols, we can control their response teams." Joran exchanged a look with Merrick. "Understood. Hold your position. We'll buy you time." A moment of silence passed. Then Kayla's voice returned, urgent and sharp. "Joran, something's wrong. There's a secondary security layer I didn't anticipate. Someone's locking me out." Joran stiffened. "You think they knew we were coming?" Another explosion rocked the sector, sending a tremor through the ground. Merrick swore under his breath. "If they did, we're already walking into a trap." Joran inhaled sharply. "We keep moving. We need to reach Kayla before she's compromised." With a silent nod, Merrick signaled to their team. The group of rebels, clad in darkened armor, moved swiftly through the war-torn streets, sticking to the shadows. Above them, Dominion drones hovered, their searchlights sweeping through the ruins. Every step was a calculated risk. As they turned a corner, a sharp voice rang out. "Hold it right there." Joran's instincts took over. He spun, raising his rifle just as a squad of Dominion enforcers emerged from a nearby checkpoint. A brief moment of stillness hung between them. Then chaos erupted. Gunfire split through the night. Energy bolts seared the air as Joran and his rebels took cover behind a demolished transport. Merrick fired off control bursts, taking down 2 enforcers before rolling behind an overturned hoverbike. "We're pinned," a rebel shouted, ducking as a bolt nearly clipped his shoulder. Joran's mind raced. They didn't have time for a prolonged firefight. If they didn't push through now, Kayla would be alone against whatever security system had detected her. Gritting his teeth, Joran tapped his earpiece. "Kayla, how much longer do you need?" "Too long if you don't get these damn firewalls down," she snapped. "I need physical access to the control hub." Joran swore. "Merrick, we need to move, now." Merrick gave a sharp nod and turned to the rebels. "Suppressing fire on my mark. 3, 2, 1. A sudden barrage of gunfire erupted from their position, forcing the Dominion enforcers into cover. Joran seized a moment, sprinting across the street, rolling into a low crouch behind another set of crates. He raised his rifle and fired, striking one of the Dominion officers square in the chest. The enforcers faltered. That was all they needed. "Go, go, go!" Merrick barked, and the rebels surged forward, overwhelming the remaining opposition. The last Dominion soldier fell with a strangled gasp, and then the street was theirs. Joran didn't waste a second. "Move. The spire won't wait for us." The spire loomed ahead, its sleek black structure piercing the sky, a monument to Dominion control. But tonight, it would be something else. A battleground. Joran led the team to a hidden service entrance Kayla had marked. The door security panel flickered red, locked tight. He turned to their demolition expert, Rylan. "Can you get us through?" Joran asked. Rylan smirked, pulling a set of tools from his pack. Give me 60 seconds. Joran exhaled, gripping his rifle as he watched the skyline. More Dominion ships were arriving. Their window was closing fast. A few agonizing seconds later, the panel flashed green. We're in, Rylan confirmed. Joran wasted no time. Let's move. They entered the spire, its interior eerily silent despite the chaos outside. Kayla's voice came through their comms again. You're close. Security forces are being redirected to the lower levels. If you hurry, you can reach me before they regroup. Joran quickened his pace, leading the team through the dimly lit corridors. Every step felt heavier, every turn a potential ambush. The Dominion wouldn't let them waltz through their stronghold without resistance. As they approached the central command hub, a metallic hiss filled the air. The rebels barely had time to react before the automated turrets sprang to life. Get down! Merrick shouted as a hail of bullets tore through the corridor. Sparks flew as rounds ricocheted off the walls. Joran dug behind a pillar, breathing hard. Kayla, we got a problem. I see it, she said through gritted teeth. I'm overriding the system, but... A new voice cut through the channel, cold and metallic. Well, you really thought you could walk into my house uninvited. Joran's blood ran cold. He knew that voice. Hi, Commander Straven. Kayla cursed. They knew. They'd been waiting for us. Joran clenched his fists. The Dominion had anticipated their every move. And now, they were trapped inside the spire with the most ruthless man in the Dominion ready to strike. The rebellion's first strike had begun, but had it already failed? The cold metallic walls of the Dominion spire pulsed with crimson alarm lights, casting eerie shadows across the narrow corridors. Joran Velan pressed his back against a steel pillar, his pulse hammering his ears as the Dominion's automated turrets whirred into position. Kayla, we need those systems down now, he hissed into his comms. Static crackled before a strained voice broke through. I'm trying, but Straven locked me out of the mainframe. He's manually overriding my commands. Merrick cursed under his breath, ducking as a hail of bullets shredded the wall behind him. We don't have time for this. If those turrets don't stop firing, we're dead. Joran's mind raced. The Dominion had been waiting for them. Every move they made had been calculated, anticipated. Straven wasn't just reacting. He was leading them straight into the slaughter. A metallic clank echoed through the hall as a rebel to Joran's left tried to crawl to safety. The turrets detected the movement instantly. "No!" Joran started, but it was too late. A flurry of energy rounds struck the rebel's body. His scream cut short as he slumped to the ground, lifeless. Rage surged in Joran's chest. He wasn't going to let the Dominion pick them off one by one. Merrick, cover me. I'm getting to that panel. Marik's eyes widened. That's suicide. Joran ignored him, timing his movements between bursts of gunfire. He lunged forward, sliding across the floor toward a security console embedded in the wall. His fingers flew over the touchscreen, trying to force a manual shutdown. Kayla's voice came through again, more frantic now. Joran, listen to me. Straven set up a kill switch. If you don't do this right, the whole corridor will lock down and you'll be trapped inside. Joran gritted his teeth. Then tell me how to do it right. I'm sending you the override sequence. You'll need to enter it manually. Joran glanced up at the turrets. One wrong move, and they would all be gunned down. Send it, he said. A second later, a series of symbols flashed on his wrist display. He keyed them into the console as fast as his fingers allowed. The turrets beeped once. Then silence. The barrels of the deadly machines lowered, their targeting lights blinking off. Joran exhaled sharply. We're clear. Merrick helped him to his feet, gripping his arm tightly. Next time, try not to get yourself killed. Joran smirked. No promises. The rebels pressed forward, deeper into the spire. The corridors became tighter, darker. Every step was weighted with the knowledge that they were heading into unknown danger. Kayla's voice returned, steadier now. You're approaching command hub. Straven is inside, but I don't know what he has waiting for you. Joran's grip on his rifle tightened. Then we'll find out the hard way. They reached a massive security door, its steel plating reinforced with Dominion insignias. It was locked tight. Rylan, their demolitions expert, stepped forward. I can blast it, but it'll alert every soldier in the spire. Joran considered their options. There was no subtle way in. Straven knew they were here. He wanted them to come to him. Do it. Rylan set the charges. The rebels took cover. With a deafening explosion, the doors blew inward, revealing the command hub beyond. And there, standing amidst a sea of flickering hollow displays, was High Commander Straven. The man was tall, his presence commanding. His dark armor reflected the emergency lights, and his piercing eyes held no fear. I must admit, Straven said, his voice calm despite the destruction, you've been more resourceful than I expected. Joran stepped forward. Surrender, Straven. It's over. Straven chuckled, shaking his head. Over? No, Joran. This is just beginning. From the shadows, Dominion shock troopers emerged, their rifles leveled at the rebels. Joran's stomach sank. They had walked right into a trap. Straven smiled. Let's see how humanity fares without its so-called heroes. The battle for the spire had just begun. The Dominion shock troopers moved in with machine-like precision. Their rifles aimed at the outnumbered rebels. Joran Velan could hear the soft hum of the plasma charges inside their weapons, the faint electronic whine that signaled death. He tightened his grip on his own rifle, his mind calculating every possible move. You were always predictable, Joran, Straven said, stepping forward. His voice was maddeningly calm, his hands clasped behind his back. A soldier bound by foolish ideals, clinging to the illusion of hope. Joran took a deep breath. The air was thick with tension, the scent of scorched metal lingering after the explosion that had blown open the command hub's doors. Around him, Merrick, Kayla, and the others shifted into defensive stances, ready to fight despite the overwhelming odds. I prefer to call it faith, Joran said. Straven smirked. Faith won't save you now. A single motion from Straven's hand, and his troops opened fire. Joran dug behind a console as a hail of plasma bolts seared the air. The rebels returned fire, their shots striking the armored bodies of the Dominion soldiers. A direct hit took down one trooper, his body convulsing before collapsing to floor, but more surged forward. Merrick gritted his teeth, ducking beside Joran. This isn't a fight, it's a slaughter. Joran didn't answer. His eyes darted across the command hub, searching for an advantage. The central control panel. If they could override the security systems, they might be able to turn the tide. But Kayla was pinned down, unable to reach it. A grenade landed near them. Joran reacted instantly, grabbing Merrick and yanking behind a reinforced barrier as the explosion rocked the chamber. Sparks rained down from the ceiling. We can't hold them off forever. Rylan shouted, his back against the console. Joran's mind raced. If they could buy Kayla enough time. Then he saw it. A power conduit running along the ceiling, connected directly to the central systems. Kayla, he shouted. We need an EMP surge. Now! Kayla's fingers flew across her wrist of ice. I'll overload the spire's core, but it'll take a minute. A minute might be all we have. Straven's voice cut through the chaos. Still thinking like a desperate soldier, Joran? You can't win. Joran ignored him, pressing his rifle against his shoulder. Merrick, Rylan, cover Kayla. We hold the line until she's done. Merrick gave a sharp nod. Let's give them hell. The rebels fought like demons, dodging between burning debris, their shots precise and deadly. Dominion soldiers fell, but their numbers were overwhelming. Joran felt the heat of a near-miss sear his shoulder. He gritted his teeth, pushing through the pain. Kayla's voice rang out. EMP in 3, 2, 1. The world flickered. A surge of energy pulsed through the spire, sending a wave of blue light through the room. Dominion weapons sparked and died, their systems overloaded. The shock troopers faltered, their armor locking up. Joran didn't hesitate. Now, take them down. Blinded and disarmed, the Dominion forces fell one by one. Mark's rifle sent a trooper sprawling. Rylan took out another with a well-placed shot. Within moments, the room was silent. Only Straven remained. He stood unfazed, his eyes locked onto Joran. Then, with a slow motion, he reached for a hidden blade at his waist. Joran raised his rifle, but Straven moved fast. Too fast. The blade slashed through the air, grazing Joran's arm. The two warriors circled each other. Straven lunged. Joran barely dodged, the blade slicing through his jacket. He retaliated with a strike to Straven's ribs, but the commander barely flinched. "You fight well," Straven admitted, "but you lack the conviction to do what's necessary." Joran's breath was ragged, "And you lack the humanity to understand why we fight." Straven smirked. "Then let's finish this." They clashed again. Steel met steel. Joran's mind went blank. There was only instinct. He parried a blow, ducked under another, then struck low. Straven stumbled. Joran didn't hesitate. He drove his blade into Straven's chest. For the first time, Straven's confidence wavered. His lips parted, a whisper of disbelief escaping before he collapsed to his knees. Joran knelt beside him. "It's over." Straven's eyes darkened. "You think you've won?" Joran didn't answer. He simply stood, stepping back as Straven exhaled his final breath. Silence filled the room. Merrick let out a slow breath. "We did it." Kayla approached the control panel, her fingers flying over the keys. "Disabling Dominion defenses now." A moment later, the emergency siren ceased. Across the planet, Dominion ships fell from the sky, their systems failing. The rebellion had won. Joran turned to his team. "It's over. Humanity is free." As the first rays of dawn filtered through the shattered spire windows, Joran allowed himself a rare smile. They had done the impossible, and the future was theirs to shape.